The third year of being ignored by him, I figured it out and calmly handed him the divorce agreement. He froze for a second and sneered. "Learned to threaten me with divorce? You can't even understand French cuisine. How dare you be Mrs. Lu?" I nodded. "I'm not worthy, so I'm setting you free." On the day of the divorce, all shareholders withdrew their investments. He was stunned. In the evening, as the cleaning lady was about to leave, she took out a lipstick from her pocket. "Xiaoqing, your lipstick was left in the study. I put it on the desk for you. Look at the packaging, it's not cheap. You shouldn't just leave it lying around." I, who was engrossed in watching a drama, froze. I instinctively wanted to say, "Impossible." But the lipstick was undeniably real. The cleaning lady came to clean the house for 4 hours every afternoon, so she wouldn't know that Lu Ming never allowed me to stay in his study for long periods. Even as his wife, if I went in to bring him some fruit or milk, he would still drive me out, let alone leave any personal belongings behind. I picked up the lipstick and glanced at it. It was a bright and bold fuchsia, which was never my style. After the cleaning lady left, I sat alone on the sofa for a long time. The TV was still playing a melodramatic soap opera, but I couldn't hear a single word. After a while, I still opened the home surveillance system. Lu Ming's study had its own set of surveillance cameras that I couldn't access, but I could tell from the living room cameras who had been there. I scrolled through the videos and soon saw the day I went back to my parents' house. The door was opened, and Lu Ming first entered sideways, followed by a petite young woman. "Your home decor is quite nice, isn't it?" Her voice was sweet and cheerful, like a happy little bird. Lu Ming didn't answer her question and instead asked, "You're off work so early today, aren't you afraid of getting in trouble with your manager?" The girl smiled and leaned on his shoulder, cooing softly, "With you backing me up, who would dare say anything to me?" This scene pierced my eyes. When I was a senior in college, I interned at Lu Ming's company. We had only recently started dating then, and I had specially prepared a homemade lunch for her, delivering it when no one else was around. Little did I know, as soon as I walked into the office, he frowned. From then on, we had to maintain a professional distance at the company. We could only be in a superior-subordinate relationship. I was hurt by his coldness and felt down. For the entire afternoon when I got home, he held me and comforted me, saying that as the chairman of the company, if others saw me arranging for my wife to join the company, it would affect how I conducted business in the future. How would I then refuse other employees who wanted to bring in their own relatives? I wanted to retort that I hadn't used my connections, that I got the job through my own abilities, but looking at his tired face, I held back. Not long after, I resigned from my job, and under Lu Ming's persuasion ended up becoming a housewife. However, when that girl brazenly said, "You have my back," I finally realized that the only relationship he didn't want people to know about was ours. Lu Ming took out many snacks from the refrigerator and entered the study with Qin Huan. Perhaps because I wasn't home, he didn't close the study door. He sat at the computer working, while Qin Huan lay on the sofa eating the snacks he gave her. When she bit into the yogurt, it splashed onto the blanket. Qin Huan stuck out her tongue, embarrassed about dirtying the carpet. Lu Ming sat at the far end of the study. From the living room surveillance feed, I couldn't hear what he was saying, only saw Qin Huan smiling sweetly, likely agreeing to something. When they came out of the study, Lu Ming thoughtfully wiped the crumbs from Qin Huan's mouth and dotingly asked, "After eating so many snacks, are you still up for French cuisine?" "Of course." Qin Huan smiled, linking her arm with Lu Ming's with a loud slam of the door. Silence returned to the world. As I turned off the video, my hands trembled uncontrollably. I had always thought Lu Ming was a naturally cold person. When our new house was newly renovated, he personally picked out all the furniture for the study. I particularly liked the sofa in the study. It was soft and light to lie on, so while he was showering, I lay on the study sofa, browsing my phone and holding a bag of shrimp crackers. When he entered, his gaze, which I will never forget, was one of disgust and aversion. "Who let you in? Didn't I tell you this is my private space? The scent of you mixed with the smell of snacks is unpleasant." I looked up in bewilderment. "I'm not wearing perfume today, and these shrimp crackers have a very mild smell." Before I could finish speaking, he cut me off coldly. "Get out." That night, Lu Ming slept in the study while I cried in the bedroom all night. Afterward, with eyes as swollen and red as 2 walnuts, I tried to comfort myself. Perhaps Lu Ming has a severe cleanliness obsession. The study is his own mental world, which is why he doesn't allow anyone to barge in. But now, he not only allows a girl to lie on his sofa eating and binge-watching, but even hands her snacks himself. Everything I once comforted myself with now seems ridiculous. what principles or obsessions, it's just that I'm not the person he favors. I sat alone in the living room for a long time until dusk, only then did I open the computer and print out the marriage agreement I had already drafted. This agreement, in fact, I had drafted 3 months ago, but I had never brought it out. I'm really good at comforting myself, always making excuses for Lu Ming, because he is the person I had a crush on for 4 whole years in college. Lu Ming in college was different from other rich second generations. His grades were exceptionally outstanding and he often represented the school in various competitions. I could always see him on the shining stage of different contests, hoping his gaze would linger on me for a moment. That crush began then, and later he started dating Shihua. Unfortunately, the good times didn't last long. After graduation, Shihua insisted on pursuing a career in the entertainment industry, and Mrs. Lu firmly forbade her daughter-in-law from showing her face publicly. The two were separated. Lu Ming became despondent and, as a revenge on Mrs. Lu, he indiscriminately chose me. I always thought that as long as I played the role of a virtuous wife and mother, I would eventually wait for the day the iceberg would melt, but I warmed up for 3 whole years and still didn't see the iceberg melt. Yet once Qin Huan appeared, my sixth sense rang the alarm. He and Shihua are the same kind of person, the same bright and passionate. 3 months ago, I had already heard Qin Huan's name. Qin Huan was hired into the company as an exception. Within less than 3 days of joining, he already had Lu Ming's contact information. I secretly looked at their chat records. Qin Huan, Amir in turn, was not afraid of the general manager at all. He not only boldly mocked the problems he encountered at work, but also often shared with Lu Ming the snacks and trending shops he loved. Lu Ming would also remember the flavors of his favorite foods, something I had never had. When you truly like someone, they become your exception. Lu Ming, a man who approached work with such seriousness, would comfort him patiently after Qin Huan caused trouble, take him to eat good food to lift his mood, and even greet his superior. Every time he messaged Qin Huan, the corners of his mouth couldn't help turning up. He began coming home later and later, occasionally coming home early only to be typing non-stop on his phone, his eyes and brows carrying a smile. Just like the way I longed for him to reply to messages during our university days, I tried to communicate with him. To express my dissatisfaction, he replied that we're just ordinary superiors and subordinates. Do you really think everyone else is as calculating as you are? He cut off all my words. Now looking back, his wanton hurt toward me was merely because I loved him, and now I want to take back this love. I pulled out the lipstick to show Lu Ming, and she clearly wore an expression of impatience. It was that new intern who came to our house that day to deliver documents and accidentally dropped the lipstick on the sofa. Just throw it away. What a clumsy excuse. Who would drop lipstick on the sofa when delivering documents? I didn't say a word, pondering how to take out the divorce agreement without making it feel abrupt. Seeing my silence, Lu Ming suddenly grew angry. I've already explained it to you, and you still wear this corpse-like face for everyone to see. If you don't believe me, then let's get a divorce. I nodded, and just then, under her stunned expression, I pulled out the divorce agreement. See if there's anything else you want to negotiate in the property division inside. I don't want anything else. I only want this house and the 5 shares your company had at the time of our marriage, which will be cashed out for me then. Lu Ming was taken aback for a moment, but quickly his face was replaced with disdain. Threatening me with divorce? Zhao Qing, when did you also learn this seduction tactic? You're living a life of ease at home every day now. If you left, would I really think I could still live such a good life? I clenched the divorce agreement in my hand. If you're living a life of ease at home, did you think house chores are all done by the Auntie Tian Luo? Lu Ming, what exactly do you think you're high and mighty about? It was you who coaxed me into resigning and coming home. Why do you look down on me for choosing to be a stay-at-home wife? Lu Ming was truly shocked to the point that in these 3 years of marriage, I have always appeared as a well-behaved and gentle image in front of him, to the extent that he forgot I once relied on intellect and sharp tongue to stand out at work. I could become a team leader in just 3 months without any backers or maintenance help. I could also, when I didn't love him, drive a blade into him. Lu Ming could not refute and could only mask his guilt with anger and embarrassment. Zhao Qing, I think you're just bored. I look into her eyes. I have indeed endured enough of these days. Sign the divorce agreement. It's good for both of us. Lu Ming stared at me for a long time as if trying to find some trace of joking on my face. After a while, he finally gave up. He grabbed the divorce agreement in a somewhat anxious manner, signed it and then glared at me with bared teeth. Are you satisfied now? I shook the hand holding the divorce agreement suddenly, and when I looked at Lu Ming, my eyes were filled with endless sorrow. This is the man I once loved. The closer someone is, the more they know how to hurt you the most. In my relationship with Lu Ming, I had also mentioned divorce. It was like a child who doesn't get attention, desperately needing a reason to seek attention, but in the end I am the one who always gives in, but this time I won't beg for reconciliation anymore. I will put the divorce agreement away, calmly speak and leave. Lu Ming frowned and went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get a divorce. Lu Ming opened his mouth, about to spit out some sarcastic words, but after realizing that I was serious, his expression also turned serious. Zhao Qing, you're insufferable. Do you think that calling you Miss Lu makes you worthy of the life you have now? Well, I'm not worthy, so I'll return it to you. Stop the nonsense. The Civil Affairs Bureau will close soon. I'll lead the way downstairs with my bag. I don't want to say another word to her. Did she really think being Mrs. Lu is such a coveted position? It's because I love her that I'm willing to be Mrs. Lu. If I'm no longer in love now, I shouldn't be trapped in this Mrs. Lu label any longer. At the Civil Affairs Bureau, the staff kept urging us to think it over, and only after they saw how disgustingly sour my and Lu Ming's faces looked did they shut up and say we could only obtain the marriage certificate after the cooling-off period. I vented my anger all the way out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, and then realized it had started to rain. Lu Ming held the umbrella, opened the car door, gave me a cool glance, as if waiting for me, and started to beg for mercy, showing great kindness to drop me off somewhere. But I just dashed into the heavy rain, got soaked, and walked in the opposite direction from him. Zhao Qing, you'll regret it. Even if you cry and beg me like a dog in the future, I won't look back. I shrugged, enjoying the rain washing over me. No reply. Behind me came the sound of a car door slamming shut and then the engine roaring angrily. From then on, he and I went our separate ways, the bridge and the road, and when I returned home to pack my luggage, I realized that in the 2 years of our marriage I hadn't acquired much. I used to love dressing up so much because after she got drunk she said that no matter how much I dressed up it would still be inferior to her. I somehow hadn't bought new clothes in ages. If you add up everything, a single suitcase and a backpack could carry it all. That night I moved to a hotel. Finding a place to live could wait, but I didn't want to live with her for even a day. I thought the first night away from home would be sleepless. But as soon as I lay on the hotel bed I felt sleep coming on. The expected pain and restlessness did not appear. Instead there was a kind of ease I had never felt before. My feelings for him had already vanished due to the repeated coldness and sarcasm. What I couldn't let go of was only my own stubborn attachment. I slept until noon, and when I woke up I had over a dozen missed calls on my phone. I rubbed my eyes and opened the call log. They were all from Mrs. Lu. Mrs. Lu disliked me, much like she disliked Shihua, but unlike Shihua, I was her legitimate daughter-in-law, which gave her even more reasons to try and wear me down because I didn't answer her calls. Mrs. Lu sent a barrage of voice messages like a cannonball. I opened them and heard her displeased voice. Xiao Qin, why aren't you answering your phone? I'm not trying to nag you, but you're not working now and have nothing to do at home, so you shouldn't sleep in every day. You should get up and move around more. It'll help with getting pregnant. Remember to remind Lu Ming to drive back to our hometown next week for Grandpa's birthday. Lu Ming works so hard every day and it takes 4 to 5 hours to drive back. He can't handle that. You're enjoying yourself at home all day, so a little busy work now and then is nothing. After listening to these messages I let out a mocking smile. Mrs. Lu has always been like this. Her seemingly intimate voice messages are actually filled with criticism towards me. She told me to quit my job and take care of Lu Ming at home. She and her son put on a show, and as soon as I resigned, they hired a nanny who only cleaned his study. They left me to do all the housework, laundry, and cooking. But once you become a housewife, you realize that cleaning a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment is exhausting. Now that I'm divorced from Lu Ming, I don't show Mrs. Lu any respect. Auntie, if you think I'm enjoying myself at home, why don't you try firing your nanny from now on? If you have anything to discuss with Lu Ming, call him yourself. Don't bother me. Lu Ming's mother quickly sent another long string of voice messages, mostly yelling about me being rude and ill-mannered. I replied instantly, my son and I are already divorced. Old woman, don't push me to slap you. You have no semblance of a senior citizen, yet you always use your status to pressure people. I've been annoyed with you for a long time. Later that evening my parents called. I hadn't told them about the divorce yet to avoid worrying them, But since things had escalated this much, I had no choice but to face it. My parents were invited by Mrs. Lu, and we all sat around the sofa chatting over tea. When I walked in, Mrs. Lu warmly greeted me as if the unpleasantness this morning had never happened, but that's just how he has always been. One thing on his lips, another in his heart. Little Chin has returned. Oh dear, I said to myself, there's no such thing as overnight feuds between couples. Little Chin isn't working at home every day, has nothing to do, and is just too bored, which is why she's angry with Lu Ming. It wouldn't hurt to go live somewhere else for a bit. Once the mood passes, come back home. Young people quarrel because they don't know boundaries. Your dad and mom are getting old. Dragging them around to run errands for you isn't appropriate. This sounds polite on the surface, but it's actually accusing me of being immature, because every time I get angry, everyone has to worry about me. I've heard this kind of thing many times before, but since she's Lu Ming's mother, I swallow my grievances even if I'm wronged. Lu Ming has never stood up for me, not even once, not when I needed him to defend me a little. In these 3 years I wouldn't have grown so heartsick if he had. Right now Lu Ming sits on the sofa, waiting for me to do what I always do, apologize and bow to his mother. It's like a daydream. Mrs. Lu has always believed her son is a treasure, and anyone who marries him is lucky. When we first got married, at the wedding he made me look bad. He didn't drink the tea I offered for half a day and kept belittling me during the speech, constantly narrating Lu Ming's hardships, completely ignoring that I came to a strange city alone with no family or friends for support. Not long after we married, Lu Ming wasn't immune to my affections. We even planned to go to Norway for viewing the northern lights on our honeymoon, but once Mrs. Lu found out, she kept saying Norway is so cold and why go there, and she forced us to change the honeymoon to a city she wanted to visit. After we married, I brought home a cat I had raised for many years, and Mrs. Lu kept saying she was allergic to cat fur when I wasn't looking. She casually gave the cat away. When I questioned her, she pretended to be aggrieved, saying she's old and the allergies are really hard to bear, yet I'm allergic to mangoes, so why does she keep fresh mangoes on the table every day? Small things like this piled up and made me feel more and more suffocated. I complained to Lu Ming a few times. At first, Lu Ming would still tell me to endure it, but as time passed he only sided with his mother. My mother raised me with great effort, and what's wrong with having a little more patience and tolerance for elders? Why am I so petty? I'm frustrated beyond measure. And she doesn't care about how I feel because she knows no matter how she acts, I won't leave him. It was around that time that the relationship we had painstakingly built started to collapse. I couldn't stand Mrs. Lu's sly, snide attitude, so I asked her bluntly if she hadn't meddled so much, she wouldn't have needed to call my parents and cause all this trouble. Mrs. Lu paused, and I wouldn't give her a chance to speak. All she does is criticize that I don't work and stay at home, as if I've forgotten what she looked like when she advised me not to work. When I worked at Lu Ming's company, I helped him secure several key contracts. Without me, would there be a company today? At first, I had already worked up to become a manager at Lu Ming's company, earning 40,000 a month. Later I quit and stayed home to do laundry and mop the floors. No matter how late Lu Ming stayed out for engagements, he would come home to hot meals and hot soup. He only gave me 5,000 a month in allowance. I bluntly told him that even a random babysitter would pay more than that. From your tone, it sounds like I'm the one who was greatly indebted to your family. I wanted to keep talking, but Lu Ming grew anxious. Zhao Qing, that is my mom. Please speak with respect. I watched Lu Ming slam the cup on the table so hard that the water splashed. With my eyes red, I said fiercely, after so many years of showing you respect, when your mom doesn't respect me, you shrink back like a turtle and wouldn't even fart if you say it nicely. She's an elder. If you say it harshly, I could pull any stranger off the street and they'd be nicer to me than he is. It used to be because of you that I respectfully called her mom. Now after the divorce he still tries to control me. I tell you, it's impossible for this useless guy to point at me and order me around, making me endure everything. Has your mom ever done anything for people over all these years? Toward the end, my hands began to tremble uncontrollably, as if all the years of grievances were about to burst out. My mom was frightened and, seeing me so agitated, hurriedly steadied her own emotions and came over to comfort me with red eyes. I've always preferred to share good news rather than bad, so if I hadn't vented everything today, they probably wouldn't know how deeply wronged I felt in this relationship. Lu Ming remained silent again, but this time his expression wasn't impatience, it was filled with many complex emotions, and I even noticed a trace of guilt under his eyes that was hard To detect, unfortunately, it was all too late. Mrs. Lu came out to smooth things over at this moment. Xiaoqing, those are all small matters. I didn't expect you to harbor resentment for so many years. I knew you were a delicate child, but I also treated you as my own daughter. My mom hugs me. Today's uproar has made him see clearly what Mrs. Lu is really like. I'm already emotionally overwhelmed to this extent. Mrs. Lu's words still carry a hint of implying that I'm holding a grudge. She rubs away her tears and sharply glances at Mrs. Lu. Get lost. Mrs. Lu forces a nervous smile. Dear, how can you be like this? My dad waves his hand. Go, who's your aunt? Xiaoqing has divorced your son. We can't be expected to marry into your family. After saying that, our family prepared to leave. Lu Ming hurried forward to explain. Dad and Mom, it's not like that. Listen to me. My mom raised her hand and gave Lu Ming a slap. Mrs. Lu panicked and instinctively wanted to rush over to grab my mom. My dad stood in front of us like a mountain, his hand extended but then awkwardly retracted. My mom, with tears in her eyes, spoke every word like a pearl. When Xiaoqing wanted to marry you back then, I did not agree. I only have one daughter, and in order to give her confidence in your family, we didn't ask for any betrothal gift at all, and even gave a dowry of 300,000 yuan for a car when she came back. She didn't have a penny on her. Her dowry had fully subsidized your family. Lu Ming, what did you say when you married my daughter? You said you would take care of her for a lifetime, not let her suffer a bit of grievance. Do you think our family is easy to bully? Xiaoqing has no backing, no one to support her, right? Lu Ming, there were times in the past when these things crossed my mind too, but only when someone pointed them out did I realize I was being negligent. My mom and dad protected me and kept me company after I left, staying with me at the hotel for 2 days, taking me out to relax and unwind. Later, because of work, I had to return home first, and I still needed to stay at the hotel for a while, waiting for the 1-month cooling-off period for divorce to end. With my parents' support, I felt a huge sense of relief, as if I had returned to the carefree days of my 20s. During this time, I had been conducting field investigations into various industries, planning to start a small business of my own once Lu Ming's share of the 5% was credited to me. I'm still young after all, and there's still a chance to start over. In the evening I couldn't sleep, planned to unbind the surveillance at home with my phone. But I unexpectedly saw Qin Huan. She was wearing a black professional outfit, accentuating her youthful, supple body. At this moment, his hair and clothes were disheveled. Lu Ming looked drunk, leaning on him like a greedy lech. He struggled a bit to move Lu Ming onto the sofa, and Lu Ming kept crying out, but I was so thirsty. Qin Huan rummaged through the fridge. Only 2 bottles of milk were found. Lu Ming took a sip and spit it out, angrily asking, where is my watermelon juice? Qin Huan froze. Where could she get watermelon juice for him now? You'll have to make do with some milk, or I'll get you some cold water. Lu Ming frowned, and suddenly fell silent. Qin Huan suddenly unbuttoned her jacket, revealing a camisole underneath. I was sickened beyond words. Qin Huan then collapsed softly into Lu Ming's arms. Lu Ming, you're already getting divorced. When will you bring me home? As he was pressed down like that, he immediately spit out a foul-smelling substance onto the floor. Qin Huan wrinkled her nose in disgust, trying to pull Lu Ming toward the bedroom, but was flung away. Who told you I'm getting a divorce? I only have one wife, and that is Qin Huan. You'd better leave quickly, or I'll call the police. The two wrestled for a while longer, and Lu Ming's resistance was so obvious that Qin Huan could only stomp her foot in frustration and leave. Lu Ming came down from the sofa, staggered a few steps and sat beside the surveillance camera holding a potted plant, continuing to call Zhao Qing. The only response was the clock's mechanical tick. If you ask me, Lu Ming is spoiled. Every time he got drunk and came home, I would make him a freshly squeezed watermelon juice to help wipe the taste from his mouth after drinking. These good things he had never noticed before, but now oddly he pretends to remember them. What surprised me most is that I thought after the divorce Lu Ming would hurry to be with Qin Huan. After all, given all the signs, Qin Huan should be his exception, but now Lu Ming's behavior makes me a little hard to understand. At 7 in the morning, I woke up once, checked the surveillance, and found Lu Ming sitting alone at an empty dining table, lost in thought. Before, whenever he came home drunk at night, I would make him a light porridge and dishes in all sorts of ways, and then place them on the table before he got up. This was the first time. When he woke up there was nothing. Lu Ming sat at the table smoking a cigarette, not thinking about anything in particular, and then he put on the same wrinkled clothes from yesterday and went to work in the afternoon. I also received a call from the company's accounting department, asking me to handle the property distribution matters. As soon as I walked through the door, I ran into Qin Huan. Seeing me, his eyes showed unmistakable hostility. He cornered me in the staff lounge, speaking with a certain air of superiority. The company's Wednesday afternoon tea is always blueberry cake. Do you know why? Because you like to eat it. I looked up and gauged his face, which wore unhidden pride. After all, he's a freshly graduated college student. His arrogance is a little cute. Since you're so sure about your love, why bother talking to me at all? Qin Huan spoke proudly. I just hope you recognize your place since you're divorced. Don't entangle yourself any longer. In Lu Ming's heart, you're nothing more than a nanny. Is this you declaring ownership? I smiled. And you, what right do you have to judge someone who intrudes on another couple? There isn't just you, young and beautiful girls in this world. Do you believe that, if I post about your meddling in someone else's relationship, not only could I cause you to pack up and leave, but it could also affect the reputation of Lu Ming's company? Tell me what he would choose between you and his career. Be sensible and stay away from me. I truly don't know what you as a third party are so arrogant about. If you dare to beguile me again, tomorrow I'll make the things you do to this pair of scum and trash women known to everyone. Oh, and that video of you seducing Lu Ming that night. I glanced at Qin Huan's pale face, and I pushed him aside directly, leaving the staff lounge. After I had just finished negotiating with the finance department, Lu Ming rushed into the company. Judging by his appearance, it seemed he had just finished talking with a client somewhere. He apparently wanted to put his arm around my shoulder when he saw me dodge. A hint of hurt flashed in his eyes, yet he still looked at me with earnestness. Xiaoqing, I know I was wrong. Can we start again? From now on I won't let my mother disturb my life, and I'll also fire Qin Hua. Qin Huan, who had just followed, heard this and ran away with red eyes, but Lu Ming didn't even look at him. I sneered, the child is dead, and now you come to breastfeed. Do you really think everyone likes this prodigal son's return script? If you need a nanny, go to the talent market. Don't bother me. Lu Ming seemed unaccustomed to my direct speech and instinctively wanted to lose his temper, but he held back. Xiaoqing, I have realized my mistakes. What else do you want? Why have you become like this? I looked at him, and indeed why. Lu Ming turned his head guiltily. For a long time after that, the herdsman followed me like a dog's plaster, even staging a scene of sending flowers on a rainy day. He was drenched. I went downstairs with an umbrella. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with joy. Xiaoqing, I knew you cared about me. I took his flowers and threw them on the ground, covering my mouth and laughing. Lu Ming, you look like a dog right now. The expression on his face was very dramatic. People are very selfish and instinctively choose what is more beneficial to them. He didn't fail to understand that Qin Huan only loved her money, but at that time, with me as a virtuous wife and mother at home, he wantonly sought the feeling of first love from Qin Huan. Now that no one takes meticulous care of him and makes sacrifices, he naturally feels unaccustomed. Lu Ming loves only himself. Later, no matter how Lu Ming pestered me, I never paid attention to him again. I blocked all his contact information, only keeping his phone number. It wasn't out of nostalgia, but to notify him to come to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get a divorce certificate after 1 month. Lu Ming still wanted to salvage the situation. I smiled and threatened him. If you pester me again, I don't mind posting our affairs online for everyone to comment on. Let's see who will be willing to do business with your company then. He fell silent and the light in his eyes gradually dimmed. After receiving the property division, I went home to live with my parents and opened a dessert shop that I liked. A year later, I heard news of Lu Ming again from a mutual friend. Apparently, after Qin Huan was rejected, he flew into a rage and leaked confidential documents for a major company contract. This caused Lu Ming to lose a significant amount of money and dealt a major blow to the company without any regard for their past relationship. Lu Ming had Qin Huan sent away. Lu Ming wasn't faring any better. The company's capital chain broke and it declared bankruptcy, eventually being acquired by a larger corporation. Lu Ming went from general manager to a department manager with no real power. Mrs. Lu pressured Lu Ming daily to go on blind dates, which angered Lu Ming so much that he refused to go home, spending his evenings drinking outside after work. Their son was no longer the successful man he once was. Mrs. Lu fired the nanny and became a full-fledged housewife responsible for all the household chores herself. Hearing all this, I couldn't quite articulate my feelings at first. I felt they deserved their fates, but in the quiet of the night, I felt a sense of wistfulness. Life truly is a cycle. And Lu Ming's own words ultimately came true. One must be responsible for their actions. But none of this concerns me anymore. I don't need to depend on a man. I will ultimately be my own light. Story 2. The spring night was damp, raindrops tapping rhythmically on the window pane there. Streaks shattering the streetlights into fragments in the darkness. On the other end of the line was my boyfriend's voice. Uncle, the department team building event is tonight. We played too late, and it's raining so heavily. We're just staying at the hotel tonight, so I won't be back. Remember to close the windows when you go to sleep so the rain doesn't get in. I held the phone close to my ear, and amidst the crackling electronic static of the call, I heard the sound of flowing water different from the rain, and distantly a voice saying, "Girl, Song, why aren't you coming in yet?" It was faint, but I caught it precisely. My boyfriend hastily hung up. I put down my phone and looked at the man standing outside the door. His white shirt was half wet, clinging damply to his shoulder, subtly showcasing the attractive lines of his physique sculpted by youth and exercise. I smiled at him. "My boyfriend isn't coming home tonight. Do you want to come in?" To be clear, I'm not a scumbag woman. My inclination towards such behavior is rather relaxed, but my boyfriend's shamelessness more than compensates for this deficiency. Discovering Bien Song's infidelity wasn't due to my incredible intuition, but purely a stroke of luck. For months ago, one evening, Bien Song called to say goodnight and that he was safe, but for some reason I didn't hang up. I then heard increasingly loud pop music from his end. His friend asked him, "Are you checking up on her?" Bien Song chuckled and said, My friend patted his shoulder. "Impressive. Fangji is still waiting for you inside. You brought her along. I thought you'd broken up with your girlfriend." "How could I? Aren't you afraid of Uncle knowing and breaking up with you?" "No way." Bien Song's tone was laced with a laugh, casual and flippant. "He loves me to death." Hey, he wasn't wrong, at least. Before I heard this conversation, I truly loved him to death. The inertia of love made me choose to hang up the phone directly. It didn't rain that night. I stayed up all night, sitting at the dining table, eating all the bread in the refrigerator, and then throwing it all up just before dawn. I was on the bathroom floor, clutching my throat, a persistent downward pain in my abdomen, my heart and stomach in sync. As I was about to pass out, I saw the first ray of sunlight breaking through the clouds. My love for Bien Song turned into hatred, and I decided to get revenge. UCI was my chosen affair partner. He happened to be good-looking, happened to have a relationship with me that allowed us to avoid meeting Bien Song, happened to be Bien Song's friend of over 10 years, and happened to not be entirely innocent. The only drawback was his extremely high defense against emotional involvement. In the 3 months I spent seducing him, I played the part of a docile and lovable junior, occasionally showing concern for my senior's life, orchestrating chance encounters, and displaying just the right amount of coyness. However, he skillfully avoided all my advances. Compared to our previously distant relationship as fellow disciples, we had become much closer. Just like tonight when he appeared at my doorstep, I casually asked him something, and surprisingly, I didn't refuse. He took off his shoes, nodded at me and said, "Sorry to bother you." Perhaps it was the heavy rain outside, or perhaps his previous restraint was just an act. Regardless, I realized this was an opportunity. While I changed out of his rain-soaked clothes, I went into the bedroom and changed into a slip dress. There were still a few bottles of vintage wine on the bar. Without a second thought, I uncorked one and took a large gulp, then spilled some on my clothes. When I came out of the bathroom, he saw me drowning my sorrows in alcohol. The rain was still pouring outside. I got up from the table, feigning drunkenness, and called out to him, "Senior." I was quite famous at our school, a gentleman-like jade, self-disciplined and adhering to propriety, yet with a naturally aloof demeanor, treating everyone with the same impartiality. I used to wonder how someone like him, seemingly the opposite of Bien Song, could be friends for over a decade. Now I realized perhaps they were similar deep down. I squeezed out a tear or two, pretended to stumble, and threw myself at UCI. He took a step back, placing his hands on my shoulders. "Shijie, you're drunk. What happened?" "Senior." In the few seconds UCI was stunned, I fell into his arms. As I looked up, my eyes shimmering with tears, I said, "My boyfriend cheated on me." "Senior, do you think I'm unattractive? I can't even keep a boyfriend. Are you going to push me away too?" I pressed myself against his body, and one of the spaghetti straps on my dress slipped down. "Can you hold me for a bit?" I buried my face in his chest, my voice trembling. "Senior, please don't push me away." His body felt as solid as if cast in steel. I could feel the tension in every inch of his skin. I counted down in my head 3, 2, 1, 0, 5, 0. For UCI's hands moved, but he didn't push me away. All men are the same, they put up a facade but their hearts are cold. His fingertips, cool and sharp, brushed against my back, raising goosebumps on my skin. He lowered his head, resting his chin on my shoulder. His fingers found the zipper of my dress, which I hadn't fully pulled up in my haste. The next second, he zipped it all the way up. The next morning, UCI's guest room door was still closed. I got up early, planning to surprise him with breakfast in the kitchen. When I first got together with Bien Song, I used to cook for him. I wasn't naturally talented in the kitchen. But Bien Song's emotional support was invaluable. No matter how bad my cooking was, he'd always eat it with a smile and praise my improvement. When I ate his cooking, I almost became infatuated. I practiced my cooking diligently, burning several pots and getting splashed by hot oil countless times. Eventually, I became quite skilled, especially in the dishes Bien Song particularly liked. However, as I continued to cook, he stopped letting me. He'd say it was to save my time, but in reality it was because he was flirting with other girls at the company. I blandly put a large bowl of noodles into the pot, and as if waking up, a steaming breakfast was already laid out on the table. I stood by the table looking at her, her eyes curved. Slept well, senior. I heard men like this kind of wife and mother. Hope it doesn't kill you. UCI's footsteps paused, her eyes swept over the noodles on the table without a ripple. The pillow's red imprint still lingered on her fair face, and the air of otherworldliness about her instantly diminished. She lowered her eyes and said, "Still okay, thank you. The way we interacted was too natural. By the time I saw you Kai out, he had only, as usual, reminded me not to be late for the teacher's class this afternoon, not even mentioning yesterday at all. After leaving school in the afternoon, I received a call from Bien Song. Uncle, are you free tonight?" The phone was snatched away, and the sweet female voice in my ear felt like being force-fed a mouthful of peach soda. "Senior, I got my internship salary today. I'll treat you to dinner. You must come." It was Fang Ji, Bien Song's mistress, and also my junior. Fang Ji was very beautiful. The first time I saw her, I marveled that such a beautiful girl could exist in this world. She had a delicate face like a doll, and when she smiled, her almond-shaped eyes curved like an elf fallen to earth. In college, when he saw me, he would always call me senior with a smile. I had helped him a lot, but I never expected that Bien Song's affair would be with him. When I arrived at the restaurant, Fang Ji and Bien Song were already seated. Seeing me, she immediately got up and waved. "Senior." I smiled and nodded, then sat down next to Fang Ji. He immediately clung to me affectionately. "Senior, quickly tell me about your Bien Song." I said I wanted to treat you to dinner alone, and he wouldn't agree, saying I shouldn't hog his girlfriend. He really is so childish. His puffy cheeks were like a hamster stuffed with snacks, and even when angry he was adorably petulant. I chuckled and didn't answer her. "Of course," Bien Song said, propping his chin with his hand, his peach blossom eyes curved. "You're so busy at work, I miss my uncle too." "Okay." Fang Ji held my hand, tightening it for a moment, then subtly glared at the person opposite. "Senior, quickly tell me about him." I withdrew my hand, picked up the chopsticks on the table and smiled. "You're interning with him. He hasn't bullied you, has he?" "How could he?" Bien Song raised his hands in surrender. "Your junior. How dare I not follow his lead?" Fang Ji smiled, her eyes sweeping over Bien Song like water. "If he dares to bully me, I'll complain to senior." I clenched my fists, I gripped my chopsticks and picked up food. My left hand turned on the camera and circled under the table. When Fang Ji went to pay the bill, Bien Song followed. I stood aside and opened the recorded video by the car. I saw Fang Ji's calf shamelessly rubbing against Bien Song's leg. He didn't move away. On the table, he was still smiling and serving me food. I exited the video and saw a message from the person labeled Target Paramour in the notes. "The clothes can be left in the gatehouse, the location." I replied with a good animated emoji. "Fishbone's clothes that we changed last night have been taken to the dry cleaners this morning, and now I'm delivering them." Coincidentally, senior sister Fang Ji ran over and said, "I invited you all. Why are you still letting Bien from settle the bill?" I smiled and said, "Your internship salary isn't much either. You're a good guy, you should just let him be." Fang Ji pouted and, standing to the side, pulled the front passenger seat aside. "Let's go." In the next second, Fang Ji sat straight in. Bien from froze for a moment. Fang Ji seemed to suddenly realize something, looking at me with some guilt. "Sorry, Senior sister, I get car sick a bit, could I sit in the front seat? Senior sister, you won't be angry, will you? I didn't respond, I just heard Bien from say, uncle isn't a petty man. Of course I smiled and said, Akong, you first take Fangji back, I have a bit of business to return to the school. After sending Bien from and Fangji off, I took a taxi to Yuchi for the clothes. Following the location given to me, the clothes are placed in the gatehouse. I sent him a message, the picture is here. Senior brother, I'm leaving first. They reply quickly, over there, thanks. I took a few steps out, then paused behind a patch of greenery. After a few minutes, a figure walked out from the community. I watched him take the bag from the gatehouse. Then I rushed forward. Senior brother, my grievance-filled words matched this figure. I asked, are you avoiding me because I hugged you yesterday? And he didn't turn around. I went up and grabbed his fingers. I'm sorry, senior brother. Last night I've always felt that you are reliable, whether it's work or life issues. You always seem to help me solve them. I might not even realize I've grown closer to you, so yesterday I couldn't help but want to lean on you. I've been scribbling in my mind, though you two are friends. I know you're different from Bien, you're much better than him. You always go your own way alone, always quiet. Yet you're becoming more and more captivating to me. Even if you don't say much, in fact, many times I want to understand you, want to know what you're thinking. Yet it also feels like you have a protective layer over the outside world. I don't want to break the flow, it's a bit of a derailment, but it's okay, as expected. Learning is earning. Doeen, you really are something. It's probably because I drank a bit yesterday, I couldn't hold back and I choked up. I will control my emotions and absolutely not let my fingers brush past my eyes. He quickly brings them back with a bit of heat. Don't cry. I froze for a moment, then immediately pushed my luck, grabbing Yuzi's hand. Will you still avoid me then? Senior brother Yuzi's expression went blank for a second. No, then can you hug me again? I blinked, a very brief silence mixed with awkwardness as his arms started to wrap around me. Yuzi's hands moved, pulling me into his embrace, gently patting my back as if comforting a child. I buried my face in his shoulder, feeling his stiff body and irregular heartbeat, holding back my urge to pat his shoulder. Bro, I get you, even if it's a friend's girlfriend who, after being cheated on, comes to you for comfort and praise, a man will still feel a sense of accomplishment, almost like a conquest. I sneered inwardly. My relationship with Yuzi was starting to develop into something unclear, much more ambiguous than just senior brother and junior sister. The messages I sent him also received instant replies. Life on the surface remained calm, but I knew that the waters beneath were already boiling. Fangji Bien was the first to get restless. I knew he liked to play, so he would often invite different friends to gather. This time it was at his company. When I arrived at the private room, most people were already there. Fangji sat at the side, laughing and whispering into Bien's ear. Like a couple deeply in love, while I felt like an intruder. Ju Chen, Bien's friend from the company, saw me immediately and got up. The sister-in-law is here, please sit, we saved a seat for you next to brother Bien. I smiled and thanked him. Poker cards were still on the table. I didn't know which round of the game had already been played. Bien already had several empty bottles at his feet. Seeing me sit down, he smiled, put his arm around me and kissed my cheek. A well-timed drunken outburst can make people mistake it for genuine emotion. I didn't dodge, I joined the game, and Fangji lost. Someone egged him on, asking Xiaoji, do you have any crushes among the guys here? You're so pretty. Why don't you have a boyfriend yet? Fangji paused, her eyes scanning the room before settling on one person, and then she shyly lowered her head. I'm drinking porridge. Chen poured more wine before she could speak. One of the wine glasses was taken by Bien Tsong, who downed it in one gulp, then a second, a third. Brother Tsong is awesome. Brother Tsong, aren't you afraid your girlfriend will be jealous? Fangji's eyes sparkled, her gaze landing on Bien Tsong's face. He put down his wine glass and smiled. Uncle entrusted me to look after Xiaoji. How could I dare not obey my wife's orders? Fangji's eyes suddenly dimmed. I pursed my lips and smiled, pretending not to see his cold, accusing glare. Feelings that will never see the light of day. Fangji, can you really endure that? I washed my face with cold water. In the bathroom, the atmosphere in the private room was great. Bien Tsong had been drinking who knows how many glasses for me and Fangji. I had a cold expression, contemplating whether to leave. The bathroom door creaked open. Fangji saw me and wasn't surprised. She stood beside me and reapplied her lipstick in the mirror. Senior sister, brother Tsong is very popular at the company. He looked at the mirror without looking away. The senior sisters at the company are all so beautiful. I heard gossip that Many people are close to Brother Tsong, which is strange, senior sister. Actually, I've wanted to ask for a long time. Brother Tsong's ex-girlfriends are all so beautiful. Aren't you afraid? Not afraid. Brother Tsong will be snatched away by someone else. He looked at me, his dark, clear eyes full of mockery. Although his lips were turned up, there was no trace of a smile in his eyes. After all, senior sister is still a bit lacking compared to them. I almost blurted out, I'm going to snatch your boyfriend. The chat history on my phone ended with a picture sent by UCI not long ago. He replied that he was busy. I casually sent him a sad emoji before looking up at Fang Ji. Then snatch him. I'll laugh. What good is something that can be snatched away? Then I hope, senior sister. Fang Ji looked at me word by word. Don't regret it in the future. I didn't say anything. Fang Ji turned and walked towards the door. The next second I stuck out my foot, and that beautiful face had an intimate encounter with the dirty muddy water on the bathroom floor. I covered my mouth in surprise. I'm sorry. Are you a green tea bitch who can't be? Yes, I wonder if Fang Ji will go back and complain to Bien Tsong. I came out of the bathroom and walked straight away from the club, the night wind clearing my muddled mind a bit. I walked for more than 10 minutes on the road, just about to unlock my phone to order something when I saw several unread messages. What happened at 9:45 p.m? What happened at 9:48 p.m? Where are you? At 9:52 p.m. I'm coming to find you. At 9:56 p.m. the other party cancelled, the other party cancelled, the other party cancelled. At 10:19 p.m. I was downstairs at your building. I sent you my location, just across the river bridge. 18 minutes later, I appeared here panting. A young man wore an outer shirt over his body. The collar button looked as if it had been misbuttoned by one pearl white. His face flushed from exercise like a sweet little cake. In a hurry, his breath unstable, he and the student with him strode forward. What happened, senior brother? I reached out and unbuttoned the misbuttoned button, the Adam's apple bobbing with a fishbone-like hitch. I said, your boyfriend and the junior girl at the banquet. You all cling to each other, treat me as nothing. This time I've finally decided to take revenge. Now give me a little cake, listen to my revenge plan. The atmosphere briefly fell silent, looking at me with a heavy gaze, eyes dark like a solid sea wave quietly brewing in the night. After a moment all emotion on his face was concealed. Go ahead, little cake, flattery aside, everything you want I've got on the sofa at the Shi's house. I'm a bit puzzled how he managed to order the little cake during this mock-up time, but he still chose to eat it coolly and fiercely. Then there was silence. He sat beside me, his gaze upon my face, very quiet, cream sticking to the corner of my lips, and then reaching out, his fingertip touched the corner of my lips, gently wiping away my knife, stopping in mid-air. From the moment I stepped into my house from the fish pond, I felt an inexplicable sense of dissonance, growing more and more intense recently. Senior brother, I put down my fork and looked at him, asking if I could kiss you once. If you agreed, I would kiss your cheek. If you disagreed, I would pretend to go crazy with no way out in words, and I would go along with pretending to lose control. Then I heard him ask me, what is our relationship now? Illicit lovers? I raised an eyebrow, not realizing that the person in front of me didn't quite fit this term. He lowered his eyes. I hadn't spoken yet when the phone rang suddenly. I picked up and realized it was Ju Chen calling. Sister-in-law, where are you? We're taking Brother Tsong home. He forgot his key, put it at the door. I'll be back soon. I put down the fork, stood up and started to leave. No need, I'll go with you, I said, changing my shoes as I waved him off. When I got home, Jushin was still there to help me move the whip from the doorway to the bedroom downstairs. The door shut behind me. I stood up to go downstairs to wash up, but the person on the bed suddenly opened his eyes, our gazes meeting. I could see that Bien Tsong had never spoken. He suddenly smiled, brows and eyes curved. Little finger today looked very pretty. Bien Tsong was like a fox, sly, beautiful, cautious, deceiving people's hearts amid the blossoms. No one could see his true intentions. We drink only to about 7/10 drunk. These were lies that sounded like truths. Today I am truly drunk. Mistaking me for Fang Ji, I looked down from a height and suddenly smiled. That's it, let's break up with Uncle He. Tsong, I cannot be your girlfriend. He squinted his eyes as if trying to see clearly. I told you already, I won't break up with her. I want to marry her, marry whoever. Edges of the night, with the eyelids drooping, his voice tired. Chue Shu, the quilt fell to the side. I stood there for a long time, but I no longer reached out to cover her as before. My relationship with Bien Tsong remained as usual, but Yi Ci suddenly became strange. Replying to messages now was very slow. A week later, Bien Tsong went on a business trip. I sent a message hinting to him, Nan Moj has a Mogiboj at Moj's home, a magic person, Mojo on magic burning hot, 38, 2 Moj alone stole emoji points. He replied immediately, you have a fever, it's a slight fever, yesterday you got a little rain, I touched my forehead, replied that I was over there and did not respond again. 20 minutes later the doorbell rang, you see I stood at the door holding a bag of medicine, thin and tall like bamboo. I opened the door in surprise, it was just a low fever, and I would be fine after sleeping. He raised his hand, his jade-like knuckles touching my forehead, his expression calm, eat some medicine and you'll get better faster. The heat on my forehead instantly dropped. I froze for a moment, then suddenly reached out and hugged his waist. You see I's body tensed for a split second. You go lie down, I said, I'll cook for you. I blinked, I lay down on the bed in the guest room. You see I reached out and tucked the corner of the blanket around me. The bitter taste of the medicine was still in my mouth. I suddenly grabbed You see I's hand. Shixiang, you're downstairs. The sound of a key turning in the lock suddenly came from downstairs. I almost instantly jumped out of bed and pushed You see I onto the bed. The young man was caught off guard, pinned beneath me. A crack suddenly appeared on his usually calm and serene face. Shij ya sheng, don't speak. I pulled the blanket over his face and casually grabbed a cardboard box. Shij, you're back so early? I asked, holding the box in surprise. You said you wouldn't be back until tomorrow, did you finish your work early? Bien Tsung smiled and replied, we haven't had a world for two in a long time. I scoffed inwardly, oh right. Bien Tsung smiled and beckoned to me. Come here for a moment. I placed the cardboard box by my feet and walked towards him. Bien Tsung produced a bouquet of roses from behind his back as if by magic as I feigned surprise and accepted them. A diamond necklace tied to the branches sparkled. Sparkling was equivalent to being very expensive. The advantage of a scumbag is that he is never stingy. I smiled sincerely. Thank you. Bien Tsung lowered his eyes, his peach blossom eyes curving into a smile so deep it felt like it could drown a person. He lowered his head, his kiss about to land on my lips, but I took a step back and avoided it. I'm cleaning the guest room, I said. I'm covered in dust. He wasn't annoyed. He reached out and ruffled my hair. I'll clean it up on the weekend. Let's just relax together today. I agreed and asked him to put away the suitcase, then slipped into the guest room myself. The sound of a suitcase zipper came from the bedroom along with Bien Tsung's voice. Uncle, do you want to go out and play or should we just stay home? We haven't in a long time. Bien Tsung's voice lowered. Let's go out. Bien Tsung chuckled and asked, am I shy? Ashu got goosebumps all over. I shook my arm, holding a rose, and took a selfie with the necklace around my neck. Then I typed, boyfriend on a business trip. Specially came back early to spend some one-on-one time with me and prepared a surprise gift. Red heart hash today. I must have a good in-depth conversation with my baby. Winking face. I uploaded the selfie to Moments, setting it to be visible only to the police. After posting it, I let out a sigh of relief. Less than a minute later, I heard the phone ringing from the bedroom. I tiptoed closer to the bedroom. Bien Tsung's voice was lowered. I have something to do, don't bother me today, it's not possible. What did the person on the other end say? He sighed, frowning. I was interrupted. Bien Tsung paused. Really, don't rush, I'll be there immediately, don't be afraid, I'll be right there. I took a few steps back. Pretending to have just come out of the guest room, Bien Tsung walked over hurriedly, and the moment our eyes met, his expression was apologetic. Uncle, I'm sorry, there's a sudden urgent matter at the company that I need to attend to. Will this weekend? It's okay. I interrupted him, looking at him and smiling. Work is more important. The moment the downstairs door closed, I threw back the covers in the guest room, and my eyes met You see I's clear black and white gaze. The young man was struggling to breathe under the covers, his pale skin flushed as if by rouge and his eyes seemed misty. My heart skipped a beat. Senior, are you okay? I patted my chest. You scared me to death. I didn't expect him to come back. Suddenly, guess what trick I used to make him leave? I blinked my eyes. You see I sat up on the bed in the dim room. I heard his suppressed voice say, Shixiang, this is not right, so we almost got caught, didn't we? Brotherly affection has taken precedence again, hasn't it? I only reflected for a second, then said, okay. A suffocating silence hung in the air. The moment I looked at him, You see I lowered his eyes, avoiding my gaze. Time is not late yet, and I said thank you to senior brother for helping me deliver fever-reducing medicine today. I politely escorted him to the door, sincerely reminding him to be careful on the way. You see I muttered a low hum but did not leave. I closed the door as usual. In that instant when the heavy anti-theft door clicked shut, I distinctly glimpsed the emotion of ultraviolet like a grey and overcast rainy day. The remaining medicine was still on the coffee table. I glanced at it, casually opened my phone and ordered takeout. While waiting for the delivery, I flopped onto the sofa, flipped through moments and saw a photo posted by Fangji, a hospital, and a hand peeling an apple, with the caption, "The person who truly loves you will worry about you getting hurt even a little." The evening sky grew a bit dark, and I looked at that utterly familiar hand in the photo and liked it. I tossed my phone aside, closed my eyes and breathed a long sigh. UCI and I had returned to a lukewarm, not quite warm relationship as senior and junior siblings. Previously, with graduation approaching, we were busy with praiseworthy tasks and we didn't see much of each other. If I hadn't kept pestering him before, our interactions would have been woefully scarce. The WeChat chat window still showed him bringing me the fever-reducing medicine 2 weeks ago in the afternoon. When I was in the office listening to the supervisor scold someone and left, I just opened the office door and met someone's familiar gaze. I froze for a moment. I nodded, politely switching to senior brother. He had a brief moment of confusion but he quickly calmed down. Nodding at me, he seemed a bit hesitant. Recently senior brother. I cut him off. I have something to do and I'll go ahead. Walking 10 odd steps further at the corner of the stairs, I suddenly stopped. In the moment I looked back, I only saw UCI entering the door behind me, a tall and slim youth, with an upright back like bamboo, like a scholar. I looked and suddenly smiled. As Border's birthday approached, his friends planned to gather. As in previous years at the gathering we saw Fangji, which surprised us, but I was a little astonished to see Fishbone in the seat. He usually doesn't like lively occasions, so I didn't know why he was here. Ju Chen stood up to greet me warmly. "Sister-in-law, you finally came. We've been waiting for you." I smiled and plopped down next to Border. Seating myself between Bianzhong and Kong, Fangji was crowded aside. He dared not speak up and kept a forced smile on his face. I pressed close to Border and with a cheerful tone said to his hand, "Song, happy birthday." Border grinned and pulled Fangji beside him, who suddenly spoke. "Sister, what gift did you prepare for Tsongji? It must have been carefully planned for a long time. Let's show it to everyone." Laugh out loud. Actually, there wasn't any gift prepared at all originally. I planned to join Song's birthday with his friends to give him a green hat, but plans never keep up with changes. I turned to her and ordered her vintage dark green baseball cap from the designer brand she loved in college. The order was placed too late. It's still on the way. I blinked as Border and Song drew closer. "What gift do I need? Having my uncle with me is the best gift," the friends teased, all envious. I glanced and saw Fangji pinching his own palm hard, breaking his defenses. I smiled again and a glance fell onto me. Calm and even, I looked over and caught Fishbone holding a wine glass. I curved my lips and smiled at him without reservation. He lowered his head and drank a glass. I averted my gaze, leaned against Border, and felt intimate from head to toe, as if we had never had any rifts between us. In the second round, everyone present was a bit drunk. Again there was a game. After 3 rounds of alcohol, the loser's Border's friend raised his glass. "Gee, of all your girlfriends, which one did you like the best?" The moment froze. Border unconsciously tightened his grip on my waist. "Of course it's Uncle," he said. The friend blurted, "What are you saying? Asha is so good. I'm working hard to save money to marry her." The friends began to tease. I pretended to be shy, lowering my head a little, and with a quick glance I saw the hand of the person across the room clenching the wine glass. In front of it was an almost empty glass bottle. I smirked and tapped Border's shoulder lightly. "I'm waiting for you." Ju Chen was about to speak when there was a sudden bang. UCI set his wine glass on the table and the two of them faced each other. Border suddenly smiled. "Use wine to drown your sorrows. It's rare that you'd have troubles too." He pressed his lips together and spoke with a calm tone, showing Border's interest. "Tell me, we've known each other for so long and you've never seen me drink this much today." Ju Chen chimed in from the side. "Yes, whatever happened, it can't be unrequited love, right?" The two met eyes as the crowd roared around them like dragonflies skimming the water. I greet with a smile. He looks away, calmly replying, "If you're curious, then play a game and win me with one sentence." The atmosphere on the set becomes even hotter. Unfortunately today Yuzi is in such good spirits that after several rounds nothing works, and instead Fangji loses several times. He didn't let Bianzhong drink for him, and when it was his turn he was already so drunk he could barely manage. Under the ambiguous lights of the private room, he leaned on the backrest. The friendship in his eyes and brows seemed like a very sweet candy. I became a hindrance between the cowherd and the weaver, a little nauseating. Thank you. I stood up and pretended to go to the bathroom. As soon as the door to the private room closed, I heard Fengji's coquettish voice, truth or dare. I chose truth. Alright, I've become another link they push around. I washed my face, my mind a little clearer. When I came out of the bathroom, I shook off the water casually, and at the corner I bumped into an uninvited guest, a young man leaning against the wall, yelling loudly. His face flushed too much, yet his clothes were neatly in order. Buttons fastened to the very top. I remembered that my friend Ruaping loves this kind of thing when he goes to nightclubs. The more he wears something rock solid, the more excited he gets. I turned away, not meeting his eyes, walking straight past him. What is this called for in this place? I spoke softly. They're kissing inside. Oh, I checked the time 5 minutes ago. They should have finished now. I'll keep walking. Do you think I don't know what's going on between them? I asked. No, I don't know, Biensong. And I have known each other for more than 10 years. Our parents are close friends. I never interfere in other people's private affairs. And I'm not interested, uncle. I'm not that close with him. I won't say more, uncle. If you want to use me to take revenge on him, I'll admit it gladly. A small cake for a plan of revenge. I will do what I say. The voice behind uncle gradually spread, accompanied by warm breath approaching my ear, and my left hand was grabbed. You see, I held my hand, leading it all the way up to his Adam's apple. His fingertips were burning hot and he pressed down again, his fingers barely stopping at his collar. I frowned. Senior brother, this isn't right for us, is it? You see, I lowered his eyes and smiled, the corners of his eyes colored like peach blossoms that couldn't be contained on spring branches. She took my hand and guided my fingertips to the first button. Unbutton him, uncle. His voice was low and hoarse, like an almost servile plea. Make me your lover, and you can do anything to me. If someone asked, if a man who is clean, good-looking, intelligent, 8 meters tall and has abs from working out, suddenly begs you to sleep with him, what would you do? If this were online, I would definitely write a 500-word response and rant. The times are changing. People's hearts are no longer pure. Lust is a double-edged sword. And abstinence is the righteous path. Study hard, work hard, and reject lewdness to be a good citizen and a pillar of society. Once you fall into the blue peach trap, you'll often have a smile on your face. Delete the last sentence. But if this were real, I'm sorry, sisters, I'm going to enjoy myself first. The door was slammed shut. In the dim room, only moonlight streamed in. My back was against the cold wall. My calves were held, yet my body was burning. I tugged lightly at the soft hair on UCI's head. He stopped and looked up at me, his eyes glistening. I reached out and touched his face. UCI rubbed against my palm, tilting his head slightly. His speech slurred. Senior Asu, I'm a bit embarrassed, but I think we're doing well. Like this, he interrupted me, likely because he'd had too much to drink, and the man in front of me started speaking nonsense in earnest. His face was clearly upright and righteous. Yet he said that only those who aren't loved are the other woman, and that if you don't love him, then he is the senior. I reached out and pushed him lightly. You see, I let go, obediently falling onto the bed with my push. I knelt up, tilting my head, not resisting. His high-necked floral shirt was disheveled, his cheeks flushed. You see, I raised his eyes, took my hand and gently placed it on his heart. Our eyes met, his gaze dark. Uncle, I said, I can do anything, so let's see it through. I was woken by my phone ringing. The night outside was deep and dark. I irritably kicked the person behind me. The sleepy youth reached out, moved the hair from my neck, and mumbled an apology. Uncle, I'm sorry, I'll be gentler. I slapped away his hand around my waist and reached for the phone, its screen flashing a name that made my muddled brain clearer. I pressed the answer button. Aki, when are you leaving tonight? Have you seen Uncle? I asked him on the phone, my voice hoarse from my sudden utterance. The other side immediately became quiet. In the silent night, the stillness made the passage of time slow down. The person opposite Uncle suddenly started breathing rapidly. Did something happen? Why are you with him? He's drunk. Did something happen? No, I think he's quite sober, otherwise why would he be rolling around with his friend's girlfriend? I remained silent, feeling like I was being held back and restrained. I rolled over and saw UCI, who was now awake, his jaw clenched. I blinked. He met my gaze, took the phone from my hand, and said expressionlessly, "He's tired, we'll talk about anything tomorrow." He then casually hung up the phone and tossed it aside. I wrapped my arms around UCI's neck and kissed his cheek. This is the classic sentence structure for a chasing his wife to the crematorium story, the bull-headed version. UCI's tightly pursed lips curved slightly. He lowered his head and nuzzled me like a puppy, his eyes shining. A shoe, is that okay? I smiled at him and replied gently, no. The green hat, though late, arrived by noon. I woke up to see the delivered status on the green hat order. Heaven has a sense of humor, albeit a dark one. I got out of bed, my feet touching the floor. Before I could even stand up, my waist was suddenly embraced. UCI's face brushed against my shoulder. Let's have lunch before you go. His fingertips tapped my abdomen, prodding me. Eat first and I'll take you. Damn, I've really switched to affair partner mode now. UCI walked me downstairs. I had planned to go back upstairs briefly to grab some things and then leave, but he insisted on accompanying me, and I didn't stop him. As soon as I got home, I quickly gathered my belongings and was about to leave with a small backpack. When I opened the door, I bumped into Bien Tsong. The moment the door opened, the person at the door and I locked eyes. Bien Tsong's hair was a bit messy and the dark circles under his eyes made him look particularly exhausted. Before I could react, his hand was already reaching for UCI's face. The first blow landed. UCI didn't dodge and took the punch head on. He blocked the punch and chaos ensued. Fight, fight. I quietly shuffled back a couple of steps, just hoping not to get caught in the crossfire. Bien Tsong was subdued on the ground by UCI. I stood still, looking down at him with a calm expression. Uncle UCI Huan. That's my name, I said calmly. You go wait outside for me. UCI, she's my fucking girlfriend. Not anymore. I smiled sweetly. From today onwards she's not. I stood in the hallway, leaving the door ajar so I could watch the drama unfold. Even though it was my own apartment, UCI spoke first, panting. Seduced your girlfriend, I'm sorry for that. The whistling sound of fists filled the air again, a chaotic symphony. The thud of bodies hitting the floor sounded painful. I relished the schadenfreude from outside. You scumbag friend's girlfriend, you coveted her too. You're sorry to him. UCI interrupted him. He knows, he knows. Bien Tsong's voice was cracking, completely lacking his usual composure. How could he? I pulled my backpack up higher, covering the door. 3 minutes later UCI emerged. I asked him to take me to my friend's house. While eating barbecue with friends at night and complaining about scumbags, Bien Tsong sent me a photo. His face was red in the hospital and his head was wrapped in a bandage. Even when beaten, the scumbag had a sense of brokenness. If it were before, I would have been heartbroken to see the photo. Today, the beer in my mouth almost spurted out. I took out my phone to show my friend. Look, the fake boyfriend is about to explode. I clicked on the voice message he sent. The breathy voice was full of grievances. It hurts so much, uncle. My throat hurts so much, uncle. I laughed and slumped onto him. While hiccuping, I replied to Bien Tsong. I saw the other person is typing on my screen. It disappeared and reappeared. And it took a long time for him to reply. Yesterday, I'm sorry, I was too drunk yesterday and my eyes were blurry. I thought you were him, that's why I kissed him. Uncle, I'm sorry. If you're angry with me because of this and I apologize. You're the only one in my heart, uncle. Don't be angry anymore. It's all my fault. I won't reply. I chatted and laughed with my friend until midnight. My friend told me to sleep early. I walked to the bed, pulled the curtains and looked down. Suddenly I exclaimed, "What the hell, uncle? Come here." I didn't know why, so I looked out the window and saw a person standing under the streetlight in the community. Bien Tsong hadn't taken off the bandage on his head yet. He stood downstairs and when he looked up and met my eyes, he curved his eyes and waved at me. I picked up my silenced phone and saw that he had sent dozens of messages. The last 3 were, "I'm coming to find you, let's talk properly. I'm downstairs, Su Jing." A lightning bolt flashed outside the window, a prelude to the rain predicted by the weather forecast. Bien Tsong looked up at me, his eyes curved, as if with infinite doting tolerance. I quickly pulled the curtains closed. When I went out at noon, I met Bien Tsong downstairs. He was sitting by the flower bed in the community, his eyes slightly narrowed. Seeing me come out, he stood up abruptly, his steps unsteady and almost fell. I reached out and helped him. Bien Tsong leaned me into his arms. He still smelled faintly of moisture. "Uncle, I was really drunk that day. I thought you forgave me, uncle. I was wrong. What do I need to do for you to forgive me?" "I'll do whatever you say. Don't get involved with UCI anymore." He paused when I suddenly spoke. I stood on tiptoe and leaned close to his ear. "Do you want to continue with me?" He nodded. "But what can I do?" I patted the non-existent dust on his shoulder, smiling sweetly. "I think she's better than you. Perhaps I loved him too much before, so even when I answered his call on Yuzi's phone in the middle of the night, he thought I was just throwing a tantrum and that Yuzi and I were setting him up. Bien Song's face instantly turned pale. I broke free from his embrace and watched him leisurely. His gaze fell on my exposed shoulder and neck. It seemed he had to exert great effort to restrain himself. After a long while he withdrew his gaze, his voice hoarse. "It's okay." I don't know if he was saying it to me or himself. I had no interest in watching his schizophrenic performance and turned to leave, but my hand was suddenly grabbed. "Uncle, it's okay, I don't mind you and him." I turned around and saw Bien Song still lowering his eyes. Under the shadow of his hair, the edges of his eyes were stained reddish-brown. I paused, wanting to lean close to look at him, but I tilted my head aside, tightened the grip on my hand, and even the voice became obscure. "Uncle, give me one more chance, I'll do better than him." "Uncle," he said, "please." I smiled at him. I hadn't meant what I said earlier. Opportunities are just opportunities. Then I began to chase after him again in his imagination. I was just sulking. Although this time it lasted a year, he sent messages to report his schedule to me every day, shared some trivial little things and interesting things on the internet, asked me to forward the chat records to friends and go together. Then he would tag me in his new stories and I would return the tag with the gifts he sent me. I took them online to sell as second-hand discounted groceries. The breakfast delivered, I washed it with plain water and fed it to the stray cats and dogs on campus. After a year, their fur became glossy and smooth. Later, I began to reply to him occasionally. Until that year's end, he asked me out to celebrate New Year's Eve, and I unexpectedly agreed. A man who isn't handsome can't be a scumbag. Sitting in the reserved couples restaurant, I looked at the face across from me, still pleasing to the eye. When we came in, he had cleaned himself up well. Even the corner of his clothes exuded a sense of careful propriety. I propped my chin with my hand and watched him recite the names of dishes that I liked one by one. When I put down the menu, my foot lightly tapped the table. As awkward as on our first date, I smiled, and he met my gaze with lotus-like eyes. "Uncle, I thought you wouldn't agree." I took a sip from the goblet of wine, smiling, and mimicked me propping my chin with one hand, his gaze resting on my face. "Does this count as you starting to accept my apology?" I didn't respond to him. I just picked up my phone and slapped the table. I posted the picture on Moments, and it was set to be visible to only one person, to leave him some room to act. I tasted only a little of each dish, and whenever I took a sip of his wine, I immediately refilled it for him. At the restaurant entrance, there was suddenly a loud noise, as if someone kicked open the door. Thudding footsteps approached, and when they drew near, I swallowed the mouthful of food and saw a figure quickly grab the wine cup on the table and pour it toward the person opposite. He paused in confusion, not yet reacting, and was splattered with food on his body. "You clearly said you liked me. You said you liked me more than him. You wouldn't meet me. Yet you were with him. For you, I turned down even the opportunity to be formal. And I was scolded as a little 3. You clearly like me, so what are you doing now? Do you feel sorry for him? Then tell me when you said you liked me, you wouldn't feel guilty." Ridiculous. His hair was grabbed, and his eyes filled with tears. The restaurant staff stepped forward to intervene, and he pushed them away. His body wobbled. He crashed into the adjacent empty table. Fragile dishes clattered. The crowd around filmed with their phones. I covered my face as if crying, stealing glances to see that he was being dragged away by the staff. He didn't even look at him, only toward the staff. "Please, take care of this properly." He and Fang Ji called him, and in his voice there was a tremor from crying. He was dragged away in a shabby heap, flailing about, and he cried out to me, "You clearly said you liked me. You don't want to be with him. You turn back. Tell me you still like me." It turned out to be a melodramatic supporting role. I felt a little speechless. The table was a mess. Fan From looked at me with a hint of helplessness. "Uncle, he isn't me." I stood up to take my own bag. I left first. I'm afraid that if I stayed another second, I would involuntarily burst into laughter. It started to rain suddenly from the sky. I stood in the rain's curtain, and the sound of hurried footsteps stopped 3 steps away from me. "Uncle." I looked back and saw the pursued Eden leave a winding faint red mark on his face where the wine had stained him. The white shirt also smeared with oil stains, his expression ugly, decadent, and ruined. A far cry from the clean and tidy appearance he used to have. An accident is an accident. Since that night I haven't seen him again. I blacklisted all contacts with Eden. I only want you. I know I look terrible now, not the way you like me. But I'm afraid if I don't explain clearly now, you'll never see me again. And Uncle, he extended a clean hand toward me and stepped closer. I stepped back as fine rain splashed onto my neck. Don't come closer, I frowned, no longer hiding my disgust. So dirty. Eden looked pained by my gaze and staggered back 2 steps. I'll come clean and then come find you to wash. But it won't come clean. I met Eden's gaze with mine. A thunderbolt crashed in the horizon. Rain splashed at his feet. He lowered his eyes for a long time before he looked up. I've never touched him, so I looked at him with disdain. Alright, 1 or 2 acts of pretense are enough. 3 would be too much. The ambiguous kiss, the physical contact, declaring all good brothers. He is your affair. Was it not yet touched, or did you never intend to touch? Do you think it's interesting to argue about this? An affair can be light or heavy. The rain became heavier, drip 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 tapping on the steps, and the silence between us felt like a high, thick, transparent wall. In the end, it was him who broke the silence. I'm sorry. I didn't say anything. I turned my head toward the rain curtain. In the blurred scenery, there was a figure holding an umbrella walking here. I'm sorry, Eden. My eyes reddened at the corner. He said, but uncle, I still want to try a bit longer. I promise I'll be later next time. I interrupted him, pointed to the person 1 meter away in the rain. If that person had slowed his steps a bit in the heavy rain amid the rain's roar, the young and middle-aged man stood tall, rain staining a dark hue on his clothes. Under the umbrella a calm and untroubled face appeared. I said, that's my boyfriend. You see, I protected me and got me into the car, himself soaked on one side by the rain. I only got a little damp, and he accompanied me all the way home. He looked at me opening the door, stood at the doorway without coming in, just reminding me to dry my wet clothes first so I wouldn't catch a cold. I nodded, not yet asking if he wanted to come in for a hot bath before leaving, and I was shut out, fast as a monster out of a flood. Since the last time we came back from the hotel, the closest thing between me and Yuchi is now limited to a kiss. He was excessively good to me, clearly acting like intimate lovers. But every time it came to a more intimate moment, he would immediately retreat beyond the red line. I didn't understand, but I respected it. After a comfortable hot shower, I lay in bed and played on my phone for a while. Coincidentally, I had nothing scheduled for tomorrow morning, so I happily binged a drama until almost 2 a.m. I yawned and prepared to turn off the light to sleep, when my phone suddenly rang. The familiar name on the caller ID reminded me that he hadn't called today. I immediately added him to the blacklist and blocked him on all platforms on my phone. After setting my alarm before I could even turn off my phone, another unknown number called. I hung up, but it kept calling. Finally, I answered. Instantly, a cacophony of sounds flooded my ears, breaking glass, falling, gasps. The phone was snatched away. The person, somewhat slurred due to drunkenness, spoke. Uncle, is that you? Why aren't you answering my calls? I've had a bit too much to drink. Can you come pick me up? I remained silent. He used to say this phrase often before, and then he would immediately brag to his friends. See how good my uncle is. There's no one without a girlfriend, right? Go pick her up. Then I was kissed on the cheek by a drunkard, clung to for hugs in the taxi, and struggled upstairs when we got home. Just as I was about to lose my temper and slap him, he grabbed my hand and brought it to his lips. A slightly upward kiss landed on the back of my hand. He then, as if presenting a treasure, took out various small gifts from his embrace. Lipstick, bracelets, necklaces. It was very romantic. Memories always have a beautiful side, but no matter how beautiful, they can't beautify this person. Memories are just memories. I listened to him call my name over and over on the phone tirelessly. Finally, amidst the noisy background, I heard a very faint sobbing sound. Ah, uncle, he said. I miss you so much. I looked at the dull grey ceiling above, the phone light faintly illuminating the pillow, the moonlight pale. Bien Tsong said, you are truly so cheap. Early in the morning, I received a message from Bien Tsong's friend implicitly accusing me of being a heartless bad woman. Last night, Bien Tsong was hospitalized late at night due to excessive drinking. He's still in the hospital bed, not yet awake. You should come and see him. Brother Tsong is hospitalized for you, I replied. V me 500 and I'll come. The person on the other end seemed furious, typing, then changing their mind, and finally sent a message after a long while. Brother Tsong truly likes you. I copied and pasted, V me 500 and I'll come. There was another period of typing, and finally I received 500. I clicked to return the message I typed. Please note the transfer as a voluntary gift for your face-changing performance. Fearing more typing, they sent a voluntary gift transfer. I quickly claimed it, planning to go after class at noon. I kept receiving bombardment of messages from Ju Chen, scolding me for taking money and not doing anything. I didn't even look at them, and directly replied that it would definitely arrive within the year. taking money and doing things is my principle, but I can still try to annoy him a little. When I arrived at the hospital, Ju Chen at the entrance saw me and excitedly stood up. His legs were probably numb and he was a bit unsteady. I extended my foot to give him a push, and he smoothly fell in front of me. I politely said, "You may rise." He immediately glared, about to jump up. I pushed the door open and went in first. The single ward was very quiet. Bien Tsung lay on the bed looking as if he had passed away peacefully. I sat by the bedside. Sometimes what is most attractive is often the sense of contrast, the ascetic being debauched, the debauched being chaste. In the past I liked to fantasize about him being adept at navigating places of revelry, the most eye-catching presence amidst a sea of flowers. Xiong Zhuo, who played Lai Yang, has now calmed down. When he is pale, it inexplicably evokes a sense of pity, like a dying pale blue flame. There were some fruits on the table and I casually picked up a pear. I couldn't peel it with a fruit knife without sacrificing the flesh. I felt a pang of heartache watching it. The person on the bed quietly opened his eyes, and when he looked up, his gaze met mine. "You're awake." Bien Tsung's voice was hoarse. I gestured with my eyes to the water cup on the table, but he acted as if he didn't see it. "Why did you come?" I asked. "Drink water." He raised his hand, trembling slightly, but still obediently reached for the water cup. He drank with some difficulty, spilling some on the quilt, leaving dark stains. I continued peeling the pear. He seemed a little timid. "I called you yesterday. Did the call connect?" "It connected," I said, my face impassive. "You called my name, said you wanted to see me. And then I said something. Do you want to hear it? I can repeat it." His face turned pale and he became a little agitated. "You're pretending." I scoffed inwardly. The room fell silent. A long pause. The last piece of peel fell into the trash can. I put away the fruit knife and looked up to see Bien Tsung watching me, quietly observing me. His gaze was sometimes heavy because it contained too much. Enduring his lingering gaze, I took a bite of the pear I had just peeled. The door was opened a crack and I saw Ju Chen peeking in, as if wanting to warn me about something. "Brother," I said directly, 500 yuan only gets you 15 minutes, plus another 500 for an extension." The silent air suddenly became somewhat suffocating. Ju Chen scratched his head awkwardly at the door. Bien Tsung lowered his eyes. I got up and left. The used clutch fell into the trash can. I walked quickly to the door, my hand on the handle, when the person behind me suddenly spoke. His voice distorted and uncontrollable with sobs. He said, "I really want to marry you. I know, I really want to marry me." Perhaps there was a bit of sincerity in this feeling, or perhaps it was only because I loved him so much, or perhaps it was more suitable, but what did it matter? I turned back, my voice cheerful. "But I really don't want to marry you." Faint suppressed sobs came from behind me and no one stopped me from leaving. The story should end here with the female protagonist walking away, but I turned around and returned to the hospital bedside. I lowered my head and the white quilt was wet with tears, deep and shallow. As soon as I bent down, I really cried. Wow, I really cried. When I left the hospital, you see, I was waiting for me downstairs. I sat in the passenger seat, and you see, I bent down to buckle my seatbelt for me and ruffled my hair. "Is everything all right?" I shook my head. He drove me to my apartment building and, as usual, kissed my forehead, telling me to go to bed early tonight. I nodded as he stood outside the door, and the door was about to close. I suddenly called out, "UCI, is there anything you want to tell me?" He paused his movement. I tilted my head and asked, "Is there anything you want to tell me?" He didn't speak. I said, "Or anything you want to do to me?" The man outside the door took a step forward with a cold face and stopped within kissing distance, asking me calmly, "Is that okay?" I nodded and was pulled towards him, my arms held tightly. My head was protected by his hand and my arm hit the shoe cabinet behind me with a sound. His hot breath sprayed on my face and my lips were sealed, gently pressed and mingled repeatedly. Our body temperatures rose as we molded to each other. Dusk settled and the room was dark. I circled UCI's neck and we looked at each other in the dim light. I blinked and asked him, "Is there anything you want to tell me now?" The eyes of the poker-faced puppy were bright and glistening with tears. He suddenly lowered his head, his soft black hair tickling my neck. His hot breath sprayed through the thin fabric onto my heart. UCI's voice was muffled. "I know I shouldn't interfere with your freedom, and I can accept any normal interaction you have with people of the opposite sex. I know you're going to see him today and you won't get back together with him. I just UCI's voice trailed off. "I just don't like it. Perhaps it's because our relationship didn't start normally. Because of him." I cupped his face and we looked into each other's eyes. I lowered my head and kissed his forehead. So you don't feel secure. From this, my eyes were like a light, shallow creek. She said, Uncle, I am a coward, afraid that if I come closer too fast you'll think it's frivolous, and afraid that if I wait a step too long I'll miss you, so I've been careful and hesitant, but I still want to accompany you openly and honestly. Very loud, he paused, his voice a bit stuttering. Would you like to be my girlfriend, you silly little dog? I hugged his neck, laughed with a fishy word, not understanding. I tugged his ear lightly. I thought I had said we were already a couple. Spin-off for Jin Zheng Jing. Life goes smoothly here, with a solid family background, a clever mind and excellent looks from childhood to adulthood. The road of his life has been all green lights. A life that is too smooth also means it's too dull. Day after day living by the rules. Before I could react, it seemed he had already been boxed into many restraints. That year of junior high entrance exams, a private school held an activity to relieve pressure on examinees by anonymously writing letters to vent, letting the younger students reply, so there would be no trouble. Excellent grades meant his high school was already booked, but seeing everyone around him write with neat strokes, thinking the person who would receive the letter would open it to a blank page, she still wrote. The pressure of the approaching exams was huge. He ultimately didn't get his ideal school. Like others with similar worries, the reply probably would be only encouragement and comfort, anyway just a formality, so she placed the letter in the mailbox and forgot about it. After 3 seconds, I received the reply, with a very stylish, flowing script. The other party said they had a good way to treat anxiety, but it was a bit risky and would waste one's self-study session if needed. He could wait for him at the east staircase on the 2nd floor of the Chinchua building on Wednesday evening. An utterly perplexing letter, flattery stuffed into the desk, yet at 6:15 p.m. it inexplicably appeared at the stairwell. It was a girl. That girl had a very well-behaved face, yet she pulled him over the wall to run outside the school. They sang in a small singing room in a mall, you two holding props to clap for him, telling him that exams and such should all die. In the arcade they were completely in a tangle with words, from being crushed at the start due to inexperience to being able to fight back with him on an even match. It only took 15 minutes the first time. Drinking milk tea, which was too sweet among unhealthy drinks, I almost spit it out, while he laughed on the side. In the end, during the last 15 minutes of the self-study session, they ran along the road, climbed over the wall, and returned to bump into the headteacher on patrol. The two of them hid behind a low wall under the dim streetlight, their restless hearts unable to calm due to the running. This was I's first time skipping class. The principal hadn't gone far and the girl leaned close to his ear and whispered. She was still nervous, shaking her head with an unpleasant word. She smiled and said, just relieve the pressure. Every time I get nervous before exams I just throw caution to the wind and give myself a night self-study break. Don't say, the effect is pretty good. Yes, the flattery agreed. The principal's flashlight caught their hiding place and the water girl keenly grabbed his hand, and they ran all the way. The bell for the end of class rang urgently. You should hurry back after. School will start soon. The girl released his hand, waved to him in the dim corridor, her heartbeat racing. I was startled and blurted out, what's your name? The night wind lightly brushed his face, and in the dark colors his shining eyes could not be concealed. He said, Uncle He. It was the second time meeting Uncle He. Almost 2 years since that night filled with excitement and a racing heart. I's high school in Uchi was bustling with club activities, class activities, and occasionally love letters slipped into drawers, friends who pulled him into the clubs asked why he wasn't dating. At 16 or 17, first loves are just blooming, and underground romances feel even more mysterious and alluring. I didn't look away, casually replying that he wasn't interested. Then he turned his head and saw that familiar face. The sensory stimulation from memories remains vivid to this day, and the later influence caused him to miss a beat of his heartbeat. His friends followed his gaze and saw, that was this year's freshman representative. He had gone to great lengths to drag him into the club. I retracted his gaze, his irregular heartbeat making him feel like a malfunctioning robot, while Shuyu Temple recited his name in his mind, as if chanting a short spell. Yet still there was no intersection until the club performance of the duet, and Uncle nudges his own signed slip, bouncing around asking who drew the partner for his friend Chen Gang, tearing open a corner and glancing at it, without hesitation throwing his own to him, choosing the number. I like you. The friend is puzzled but does as told. Uncle He approaches him. Yukai spreads the slip, looks at the girl in front, smiling with arched brows and eyes, "We are partners, sigh." He nods with a calm, unruffled face. "Uncle," he tilts his head, smiles, "much obliged, senior." The little deer head also crashes into the wall without turning back. Youth blossoms. A boy in the same class bought a magazine for appreciation. During lunch break, the models in the magazine, wearing short skirts and showing beautiful curves, were passed around. The deskmate spread the magazine on the table, inviting UCI to admire it. He glanced sideways and then looked away. The deskmate laughed, calling him as pure and ascetic as a monk. That afternoon, during rehearsal for a performance, he stumbled over his words. Afraid to touch Uncle his waist in the partner dance, it was inevitable to brush against the girl's. A slender waist, soft as a cotton stuffed doll, was hidden beneath a loose short-sleeved shirt, while he was stiff all over, like a robot just assembled from iron. That night at home, UCI had a dream he couldn't bring himself to speak of. A boy in adolescence could hardly be called pure and spotless, but good upbringing wouldn't produce someone truly depraved. He only remembered the last thing he saw before waking up, Uncle he blinking his eyes and kissing his cheek. UCI woke up from the dream, the sky gradually brightening. The physiological phenomena of adolescence were undeniably embarrassing. At 5 in the morning, UCI got up and washed his underwear with a cold face. As the ancients said, a gentleman does not dwell on carnal matters. UCI began to avoid him. After school, he would deliberately delay his departure by 5 minutes, miss their mealtimes, and specifically avoid the times he frequented the small shop. When they passed each other on the road, he wouldn't even look at him, afraid of having further impure thoughts. After UCI had strenuously suppressed himself for a long time, he finally understood 2 things. First, the more one suppresses, the stronger the backlash. Second, love and desire are born together. The little stickler with strict upbringing felt that love should progress step by step, with mutual understanding, slowly developing feelings, and waiting until they grew up and were mature enough. So he waited until Uncle he enrolled in university, waited until he became his senior to proceed gradually, taking his time. The following year, he was still his senior, but he Shu and Bien Song started dating. When Uncle he hugged him, UCI thought this was wrong and he should push him away, but his hands suddenly felt powerless. As his hand touched his zipper, he struggled with all his might to restrain himself. When he was cornered downstairs, UCI felt this was wrong. He should apologize and restore their ordinary senior-junior relationship, but his mouth suddenly couldn't open. When he looked at him with wronged eyes, he couldn't say anything and could only nod. When he received messages sharing daily life, UCI knew he should reply coldly and let their misplaced relationship return to its original state, but his phone suddenly became disobedient. The moment he received a message, his fingers flew across the keyboard, triggering an instant reply. When he was hidden in the guest room by him, UCI really wanted to stand up and confess his lust for his friend's girlfriend, knowing that their underground relationship couldn't see the light of day. His increasingly intense selfishness made him unwilling. He wanted to be by his side openly, but the words at the tip of his tongue suddenly took a detour, playing hard to get, and it all went too far. Uncle his expression remained unchanged. He calmly said, "Okay, I'll be home tonight." UCI, expressionless, washed up, changed, turned off the lights and lay down. Then with a broken impulse, he went to the birthday party that Bien Song was holding. He drank a lot of alcohol on impulse and left with him on impulse. It wasn't an apology, not a plea for reconciliation, not a confession, but seduction. He lowered his head like a wet puppy, with a hint of exposed sincerity, and alcohol, the best fashion accessory for emotional connection, kissing skin to skin, whispering in ears, all driven by instinct. His actions of flattery were a bit clumsy. It was only in this area that he had rarely delved into learning materials, perhaps because he had endured for many years. His impulsiveness was inevitable. Uncle he bit his shoulder, leaving a superficial tooth mark. He lowered his head to apologize, each sentence more sincere than the last, though his actions inevitably lagged behind his words. Love and desire were intertwined from the start, and when it came to him, UCI had long been insatiable. The bright moonlight fell on the sleeping figure beside him, as if a soft filter had been applied. Shu closed his eyes, sleeping soundly. UCI looked down, his gaze tracing his features over and over again from that restless night in his student days until today. He had waited for many years. He reached out, his fingertips slipping into Uncle his fingers, their fingers interlacing. His heart pounded like a drum, the rhythm the same as when they first met. Whatever, UCI thought, if I'm the mistress, I'm the mistress as long as he likes it. Fortunately, I finally became the official partner,